Jags have not scored 38 points since 1933. Think about that stat.
1933?
Yep. I don't know. I just made that stat up. Absolute ass kicking of the Chargers today.
Why? So someone's like, they're missing all their players. The Jags have had the number one. They have been the worst team in the league for 24 months. That's just like, that's a fact. When you draft number one back-to-back years, you are literally the worst team in football.
Means you're stacked with talent, though.
Well, I would say this. He looks a lot better. Like he had moments today where like, this guy's going to be a top 10 quarterback. And then you go, well, who's his coach? I don't know. A guy that won a Super Bowl, the backup quarterback. And you see, Doug, how happy he is, how just normal they feel. Like, you know what ETN does now? He plays running back. Remember when they drafted him and Urban put him at wide receiver? It's like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? Does Laviska play for the Jags?
He does not.
Who's he play for?
He plays for. I thought he was on the Panthers now. He got drafted by the Jags.
You're right. Laviska had a sweet touchdown.
Laviska.
I've been betting on the Panthers 2 out of the last 3 weeks. They finally win. I don't bet on them. You're right. He does play for the Panthers. Put a nail in the coffin of Dennis Allen, who's, Mark Davis. Pretty good vibe of coaches, right? Didn't like Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen stinks.
Oh, yeah.
He's already out on Josh
McDaniels. Had a good feel for Dennis Allen.
Didn't miss on Gruden, but, Pit Bob Rich Biscaccia is having success. Packers 2-1.
Are the Chargers... Who's going to coach the Chargers next year?
Sean Payton.
It would be Sean Payton's ideal job, but the problem is Sean Payton costs money, and Dean Spanos doesn't like to spend it. But it just might be too hard for him not to hire Sean Payton. Which, if you're Sean Payton, there are times I was watching the Dolphins today thinking, how lucky is Mike McDaniel? Like, now I give him credit, right? It's not luck.
Is there a quarterback good?
His numbers were not great today. But my point is, sometimes you have the chance to become a head coach, and it's like, all right, congratulations, you're the coach of the Texans. That's who you get. Mike McDaniel got Miami. Now, he's a good coach. Like, he's not lucky. They're as lucky as, they're lucky to get him because they're 3-0. But sometimes you just get the Dolphins, and it's a cool area, and maybe you get trade for Tyreek, and shit, this is way better than being the Texans.
Big ass watch, sweet glasses.
Yeah. I mean, if Sean Payton gets to coach the Chargers with Justin Herbert, I mean, you think about who are the coaches that have fallen into like all-time great talent? LaFleur getting Rodgers and the Packers, but he's older, little tougher maybe, but you give LaFleur a lot of credit. I haven't thought about that list of coaches who stepped in like as a quarterback who we already knew was great, was entering his prime, which is, from an age standpoint is what Herbert will be. But that's got to be on the short list of coaches stepping into jobs.
Well, I thought last week when everyone freaked out about he should yank him out of the game and Herbert didn't want to leave the game, I understood it. They were down and the game was close. Today, in a blowout game, his comment after the game, were you watching? I kind of stopped paying attention when they blew him out, and then I look on the internet and everyone's like, what is he doing leaving him in?
I did see that.
And I saw his comment after the game is like, he wanted to finish it. I think they don't parallel each other, and I think that is insane. Once you go down 3+ scores, middle of the fourth quarter, he's coming out of the game. I'm not risking their starting left tackle, who is a star, hurt his bicep. I mean, the Chargers guy, beside the loss and getting their ass kicked, did you see Albert Breer says, like, listen, I'm not a doctor, but the way Joey Bosa slipped reminds me of the time his brother got hurt at Ohio State that last year and had the growing surgery. And Slater had a bicep where he did not. They might have lost 2 of their best players for a long period of time. And obviously Herbert is injured. Is it safe to say the Chargers could be now their schedule? I think it's like Seattle, and then they play the Browns, but they are losing players left and right. And there are some reports, it's out there on the internet. People are turning on this fraud. And I've heard.
What do you mean, like in the locker room?
I think they think he's kind of a phony. And I heard from a pretty credible source. I mean, I've been on this ledge I didn't know if I had tangible information. I had heard kind of hearsay, and I just consumed him. I'm like, yeah, this guy, I feel pretty good at spotting kind of phonies, and he had that vibe. And if I can see that from the outside, the players are going to turn on it. And they quit. I mean, the Jags, I get Lawrence is playing a lot better with Doug Peterson, but give me a break. The Chargers, they gave up one huge run on this one, like I think it was like 4th and 1. The guy takes to the house. Yeah, Joey's not on the field, but Derwin James was standing there. Khalil was standing there. I mean, they still got, J.C. Jackson's kind of backfired, right? They signed him to all that money. Like, that's a big thing, remember? Niners wanted. Now, I'm not saying that it's J.C. Jackson or Brandon Staley's fault he got hurt, but he got hurt. He missed game 1, played game 2, got cooked, and then he was inactive today. That's, you would say, they gave him a ton of, that's kind of been a short-term disaster for them, right? You pay that much money and you're getting 2 games, and the one game the guy's getting cooked. So the Chargers are in meltdown. And the crazy thing is they're not even the biggest meltdown of their division. It's crazy now. If you had to do the rankings, obviously the Chiefs just feel the most stable. The Broncos would be kind of second. I mean, they're 2-1. They're like,
I don't know.
Who would you rate in worse shape right now, the Broncos or the Chargers?
Well, the Chargers have I think Denver. Because here's the thing with Denver. Like, we look at Denver like they're not supposed to be good, but that is not how they view themselves. They're in bad shape. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they just hired a coach and just paid Russell Wilson a bunch of money, and he might not be good anymore. The Chargers do have Justin Herbert. So, like, organizationally, even if
he's banged up right now.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying, like,
oh, you're saying long term.
I'm just saying big picture. Like, now, who's more likely to make the playoffs? I would still say the Chargers, but I do wonder if we are the Chargers owners, we're sitting in a meeting going, do we need to mandate that, like, Herbert sits? Like, the last thing we want is for him to be in any long-term risk of injury. Now, this injury is not that this particular injury would get worse, but my number one priority would be protecting Justin Herbert today.
What would you want to do an early week 4 look ahead? Yeah. Raiders hosting the Broncos. Guess the line.
I'm going to say Raiders minus. I bet that game closes at like 4.5. Like, they're a better football team than the Broncos.
I was going to go pick them.
Really?
I was going to go open it probably like Raiders.
Like, I've watched the Raiders. They got problems. They got a lot of problems.
It just feels like
their defense, you think? Russ? A lot of delay of games from now the oh my God. I mean, the Bucs had a delay of game on a 2-point conversion today to tie the game.
I don't mind being at the 7-yard line sometimes, unless you're going to run it on that play.
A little more space. I know. Well, they were going to run it at the 2-yard play, and
were they? Did you that?
They ran it. Who was calling that game? Olsen, Greg Olsen, and Burkhardt.
Yeah, it was game of the day. Yeah,
yeah. Burkhardt's like, that play was going to work. Like, they handed it to Fournette. Olsen goes, they were going to walk in for a touchdown.